what we are planning in the next few years is to basically try to print an animal heart and then implant it in parallel to the existing heart to see that it actually functions. And then the next step will be to disconnect the original heart and maintain the artificial heart functioning. Okay? And only then we will be able to start thinking about humans.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to have you, Asaf. So to my audience who don't know about you, I'm going to give them a brief introduction and then we can get into the conversation. Mr. Asaf Toker is the founder of Israeli medical tech startup called Matricelf. They develop a platform technology for autologous matrix and cells implant in various medical conditions. The company is backed by deep academic and proprietary knowledge from Professor Tal Dweir Laboratory for Tissue Engineering and Regenerative Medicine at the Tel Aviv University. The company is gearing up towards a clinical trials in humans for acute spinal cord injuries after successfully completing preclinical trials in animals. Matricelf has recently also printed the first ever 3D printed human heart and is working in the area of printed organs and tissues as well. So it's a pleasure to have you and talk to you on Change I Am Possible, which is India's first feature tech podcast. You're the first company in the world to go ahead and actually have a 3D printed heart, and then you going for figuring out a treatment for spinal cord injuries. So first of all, congratulations for doing that and being that company who's kind of like pushing the boundary and trying to do something which I think will completely transform mankind. So let's start with 3D printing heart. And it's 3D printing. Suddenly it's seen, it's in the media at this point in time because 3D printing is now being accessible and is being used for various things, right from 3D printing houses, buildings, food, biomaterials and stuff like that. So where does the current 3D printing technology stand?
So this is a very important question. First of all, thank you for having me. And I hope that you and the audience will be happy to hear what we are doing. But regarding the 3D printing, it is still very early, and it will take, we believe, some years before we will see it in clinical practice. And the main challenge is basically to incorporate a variety of cells, of different cells, in one organ, and to make this organ functional like the real tissue. So there are still many challenges. Our printed heart is only the first step towards more clinical applications, but it will take, we believe, years before we will see 3D printed organs in the clinical market. But you have to have a vision and to aim at this vision, and one day you'll get to your vision. But we start with small steps, and hopefully it will be clinical in the future.
Right. So now I think everybody knows, what 2D print is, right? What you are doing is 3D bioprinting. So where does it start? How does it work? What is the material that you use in 3D printing?
So we produce autologous hydrogel. Autologous, it means that it's coming from the same patient.
Right.
We produce autologous gel, and within the gel we introduce stem cells that we differentiate to whatever tissue that we want, whatever cell type that we want. And then we can use this hydrogel that within it there are cells to basically use it to print like ink in a printer. And we currently have printers that has 6 different cartridges. So it's like 6 different colors in the regular printer. So we have 6 different cartridges, so we can use 6 different cell types. And we plan, as you said, that we plan the schematic planning to the computer, And then we basically send it to the printer, and it knows where to put a cardiac cell, and where to put a blood vessel cell, and when to put a connective tissue cell. It actually builds the whole tissue or the whole organ based on this plan.
Right, right. So there have been scientists who've been working on building an artificial heart. I think right from early 2010. So Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston was one of the companies who was trying to kind of build 3D printed heart. Then Carmat, which is a French company, they are working on building an artificial heart. Now you are one of the first company in the world with partnering with Telvir and the laboratory. So, what was the challenges in 3D printing a mini human heart, and when do you think we will get to 3D printing a functional animal heart, and then maybe from there going into a functional human heart?
So first, I must say that the road is very long. We believe it will take between 12 to 15 years before we see such an improvement. There are many challenges. I can point few of them. One of them is that the heart is composed of many different cell types, and you need to know where to put each cell. You have electricity in the heart, the pacemaker. So you need to know where to put it exactly, and you need it to be functional. It's one thing to print it, but another thing is to make it functional. And now we are training those hearts how to function as hearts. You need to print liquid within liquid, and then make it solidify and stay as an organ, which is another challenge. So there are many, many challenges. And as I say, it will take years before we'll see it in clinical practice. What we are planning in the next few years is to basically try to print an animal heart and then implant it in parallel to the existing heart to see that it actually functions. And then the next step will be to disconnect the original heart and maintain the artificial heart functioning, okay? And only then we will be able to start thinking about humans. So it won't be in the near future.
Right, yeah, but how, I'm sorry for interrupting, but how cool is that? So you're saying that you will 3D print an animal art, and it will be, you won't replace the real heart next to the animal heart, and only if it starts functioning properly is when you will actually go on to the next step. How amazing is that?
Yeah, in the preclinical trials, when we try it on animals, we want to first see that it functions. So we will need to implant it in parallel to the functioning heart to see that it actually works, and only then we can disconnect the heart.
It's super exciting that we have come to a point where we are going for these extremely bold and audacious visions. Now, there'll be like a certain section of people, obviously, who will be saying that we are playing God. Then there's this moral and ethical implications which comes up. There's those animal right body which comes into this thing. How is the regulatory body? How is society? How are the people in large been accepting to something like this, which I think is a extremely bold and audacious thing. But what has been the reactions from the general people of funding, the government? How's the support been so far?
So the other options is one, not to do it, and people will simply die. The other one is to try it on humans, and if it doesn't work, then the person will die. And the third option is to start with animals, like any other drug or any other medical technology, and then if it works, then move to humans. I think it's, if you can say that ethically it's not nice to do it on animals, but the other alternatives are worse.
Right.
So it's a question of, do you do it on animals, or do you don't do it at all?
So, currently technology is an exponential space, where possibly in another 20 or 30 years time, the best minds will not be able to predict what's going to happen, because we are at the cusp of making machines intelligent and things like that. Now, how are you leveraging artificial intelligence and things like that in 3D printing? And besides 3D printing a heart, are you also looking at other human organs?
So first of all, we're not working on artificial intelligence. This is not an area that we are dealing with. We believe that there are many companies that are doing tissue engineering, and we believe that we need to cooperate with each other in order to get better results. And we are exploring a variety of cooperations. So regarding artificial intelligence is not a part of our core business. Regarding the indications, our technology is a platform. So basically we can create any tissue and any organs that we want. But we decided to focus on spinal cord injury, not on the heart, but on spinal cord injury, because regulatory-wise, it is the easiest way to get to humans as fast as possible. Because patients with spinal cord injury are actually sitting in a wheelchair. They have no other medical alternative. And therefore, the regulatory bodies usually offer a lot of shortcuts in order to get to first clinical trials. While on all other indications like myocardial infarction or Parkinson or diabetes, there are other medical alternatives. So the FDA or the EMA or any other regulatory authority ask for more data and more preclinical work before you go to humans. And this is why you are focused on spinal cord injuries.
Right. So I'll before I actually open up the conversation of spinal cord injury, I would like to say that there are millions, I think, around the world who die waiting for an organ. So I think a 3D printed organ would play such a huge role if and when we can get into possibly building a functional, maybe an animal heart, and then a human heart, or any part of any organ as such. I think that could be transformational for the healthcare. Like I said, I mean, there are millions who are on the wait list for an organ, and the only way you can get an organ, sadly, is when another person dies. So yes, I mean, it will completely be transformational. Before we get into the spinal cord injury part, there is these other section of people who are working on xenotransplantation, where they are using maybe animals to harvest organs, and there is also regenerative medicine. Would you like to talk or give your views on both of the subject?
The issue of organ transplantation is, as you said, there are many people that are waiting in line to get an implant, and it will take years to develop. And in a company like ours, we need to focus on one indication. We cannot go in too many directions. We need to be focused, and we really believe, as you said, that it will revolutionize medicine. You can see in our logo, it says regenerating the future of medicine, because this is what we believe we are doing. We believe that if it will work in humans like it works on animals, it will be a game changer in medicine. Because try to imagine that you will need a pancreas because you have diabetes, or you will need a heart because you have a myocardial infarction, or you will need a liver because you have cirrhosis. You will go to the physician and he will write a prescription for a new liver, and you will go to a lab, they will print your liver, and you will be able to get a transplantation. Now it sounds science fiction, but we are getting there. We are going in this direction. It will take 5, 10, 20, 50 years, but we are getting there. Okay, so in the future, this will be medicine. Instead of taking drugs or pills, you will get a new, it's like a auto part. You go to the garage to change your something in your engine. It will be the same. This is the vision.
Like I said in the beginning of the conversation, I mean, it's entrepreneurs such as yourself who are going out for a bold and audacious vision. You have laid the frameworks for it. And I'm sure, I mean, 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 or 50 years time, whenever that comes to fruition, the entire humanity, I think, will be completely transformed. People will not have to wait in a line to get an organ. So I am pretty much excited, and I think everybody should be excited rather than questioning, because there's only a few people who dedicate their life to even opposition, because there, I'm sure, when you're doing something as bold as this, there's a huge opposing number of people who say that how dare you play God, and B, there is no support, because most of the investor support are somehow for entrepreneurs who have short-term goals and things like that. I believe that if whenever we do get to 3D printing human organs, whatever it is, it's going to be completely transformational. Would you like to present?
So as you said, every 30 minutes, somebody in the world dies when he's waiting for an organ transplantation. And on the other hand, there are millions of patients that are suffering from diseases that involve tissue damage, like diabetes, Parkinson's, myocardial infarction, liver dysfunction, kidney dysfunction. There are many diseases that are caused by tissue damage. And this poses a huge economic, social, and medical burden. Now, when we talk about tissue engineering, we basically talk on two major ingredients. One is the cells, and the other one is the scaffold, which usually the cells actually align on this scaffold to create a tissue or an organ. And there are many companies that are working on tissue engineering, but they usually use cells that are allogeneic, meaning that they are taking them from a different patient, and they use scaffolds that are usually synthetic. And therefore, when you expose the patient to foreign material from a different patient or from synthetic material, it usually leads to an immune response and to organ rejection. Now, what we do in Matricelf is that we are producing complete autologous implant, in meaning that both the cells and the scaffold are coming from the same patient. Now, we are a relatively young company, but it is based on years of research at Professor Tal Dvirs at Tel Aviv University. And as I mentioned, we are doing complete autologous implant. So we take a small biopsy from the patient, and we produce both the cells and the extracellular matrix. We create a gel, and then we take the cells that we are reprogramming them to pluripotent stem cells.
Pluripotent stem cell.
And then we differentiate the cells inside the gel. And then we can use it for 3D printing or to create micro tissues. And we have some amazing results. For example, in myocardial infarction, we know to create a cardiac patch that looks like a patch. You can see it contracts like a heart. And when you look under a microscope, it looks like a cardiac tissue. And it also functions like a cardiac tissue. And you see that there are calcium channels like a cardiac tissue has. You see it in green. And we can basically take this patch and apply it on the injured site. And within a few days, it integrates into the human heart, into the heart.
Oh.
And we already showed in mice that we improve the ejection fraction, which is the contractility of the left side of the heart, which is the most sensitive prognostic factor in myocardial infarction. But the main problem in those patches is that in order to place them in the right place, you need to open the chest. And therefore, our solution using the gel, which is liquid at room temperature, but it's solidified at 37 centigrade, and now we can basically use this liquid tissue and directly inject it into the injured site, like you see here in this movie.
Right.
Now, we already showed that we improve the ejection fraction when we inject this hydrogel as well. And once we have this liquid form tissue, we can start print organs and tissues. So here you see a schematic planning to the printer like we discussed earlier. And then we send it to the printer. And you can see that the printer actually prints a cardiac patch, like you previously saw. But this time, instead of growing it in a Petri dish, this one is printed by a 3D printer. And at the end, you get a patch that you can basically lift. You can inject blood into it, and you can see the blood flows in the blood vessels.
Right. Oh.
You can see that it has the same calcium channels like a cardiac patch. You see that it actually contracts like a heart with the blood vessel in the middle. And when you look at the blood vessels, you see that they have endothelial cells and fibroblasts like a cardiac tissue and a blood vessel should have. And as you mentioned, in April last year, for the first time in human history, we printed the first ever human printed heart. But as I said in the beginning, we are not only printing organs, we also create micro tissues. Every drop that you see here in this movie is a small tissue with cells and scaffold. And we can take those small beads of tissues and actually apply them to create different tissues. For example, cortical implants for focal brain injuries, dopaminergic cells for Parkinson's disease, orbital implants for age-related macular degeneration, and many, many more. But the main focus of our company is spinal cord injury. And the guy you see here in a wheelchair is Yariv, who is the co-founder of Space.il. This is an Israeli company that took a small lunar to the moon. And he said in one of his interviews that humanity has succeeded reaching space, but we haven't managed to bridge the missing 2 centimeters of an injured spinal cord, okay? Because he's in a wheelchair due to a ski accident that happened 5 years ago. And he's not alone. There are thousands of patients with spinal cord injury all over the world. This is an example from the US, 17,000 new cases every year. and a total of 250,000 patients with spinal cord injury only in the US that actually sits in a wheelchair and have no ability because they have irreversible loss of motor, sensor, and autonomic functions. It costs a lot of money to treat those patients, but we have good news for them because we can create a neural implant from their own tissue to create a neural implant. And you can see here that when we tested it on animals, you can see on the control group that mice that were not treated, you see that they are limping, they are not moving one of their legs. And when we implanted our implants, all the mice regained their walking. So we are currently planning on a first in human clinical trial that will be in 2024. And in biotechnology, 2024, it's tomorrow morning.
Right.
Okay, it's very soon. And we have some roadmap to do until then. But try to imagine that during this first in human clinical trial, some of the patients will start walking again. This will be a major, major breakthrough in medicine. There are other companies that are doing tissue engineering, but as I said in the beginning, we are the only company in which the cells and the scaffold are coming from the same patient.
Autologous.
We have some patents. We have a lot of achievements that we made over the few months, including a research and cooperation agreement with Bayer Pharmaceutical, which is a giant pharmaceutical company from Germany. We won several international competitions, and we were nominated by Nature magazine to be one to watch. But we have an amazing team that's working with us, both in the lab and both in the company itself. And we believe that with this amazing team, we can overcome any obstacle that we might be facing. And there are ethical issues that we discussed, there are regulatory issues, there are scalability and time to patient. But we believe that we can join forces with other innovative ideas and do some cooperations in order to bring it to humans. And just for the last slide, I'll show a short movie, and then we can continue with the questions.
Envision the day when personalized implants are generated in a matter of weeks, enabling millions of spinal cord injury patients to live independent lives. Imagine technology so advanced, it was used to 3D print the first human heart to match the patient's immunological, biochemical, and anatomical properties. Introducing Matricelf, a personalized platform for autologous tissue and organ regeneration with no rejection, bringing the future of regenerative medicine here today. The process starts by taking a small biopsy of the patient's omentum and applying a proprietary decellularization technique that separates cells and extracellular matrix. A personalized hydrogel is produced from the patient's matrix, while the cells are reprogrammed into induced pluripotent stem cells, which are then incorporated into the hydrogel and differentiated to the desired tissue. Thanks to its unique qualities, the implant can be applied to bridge injured spinal cord so effectively that mice treated for spinal cord injury regained their walking ability in weeks, paving the way to a first human clinical trial in 2023. Matricelf, regenerating the future of medicine with an innovative platform for autologous matrix and cells implants for a wide range of medical conditions. Matricelf, regenerating the future of medicine.
Thank you for sharing your vision and what you've been doing. Obviously, I think I'm super excited, and I see that the roadmap for the future is going to be very, very exciting for the people who are suffering. They finally have something to have hope on. And I don't think 15 years, 20 years, 30 years is a huge timeline. I know people who were born, they have spent confined in their bed and had to die with that like that without any hope. So this brings in hope. The timelines, like you said, we don't really know, but I'm super excited because for the first time in human history, there are some great minds who are working together. For a simple example is COVID. COVID happened in 2020, and everybody said that it would take 5 or 6 years or more to, create a vaccine. But since this was a global problem, some of the best minds collaborated, and we have a working vaccine in 8 months and ready to go to market, which is I think it's something which is the first of its kind in human history. And I believe that only and only if we break away the way we functions, our silos, how we function, if we break away from that and collaborate with each other, because I'm sure there are so many great scientists and researchers here sitting in India, America, UK, Africa, around the world, who think like you or have a vision of trying to solve these big problems, And I think with collaboration, we will be able to sort out these largest problems that's facing mankind, and it can be solved. So I'm excited for that. Now, you said that you have a neural implant which will kind of bridge communication between your brain to the spine. Could you talk about the size of the neural implant? How do you go about doing this? And when do you think that something like this could be reality? What would be the size, and when do you think this would actually be functional?
So we believe that if everything goes according to our plan, in 2024, we will be able to start testing it on humans. And if it works like it works on animals, then we'll have a very short time to market in order to start treating more and more patients. So 2024 is the goal to the first in human clinical trial. And again, if the results are good, then it will be approved quite fast, quite similar to COVID-19 vaccine, because again, patients has no other alternatives.
Right. What would be the size of the neural implant, and would there be an option that you would look for which is non-invasive, where you don't have to open up the skull? So would that be an option?
So for the first in human clinical trial, we are planning to do an operation in order to clean the scar tissue in the spine, and then implant the gap with our implants. So it depends on how big is the damage regarding the size of the implant. But in the future, we believe that we will be able to inject it to the injured site, and basically without the need to another operation. But in the beginning, we really wanted to succeed, and therefore we want to do a debridement of the scar tissue and only then do the implantation.
It was a pleasure and honor to talk to you and get to know your effort and whatever you've been building. I think both, whether it's 3D printing organs or whether it's solving the problem of spinal cord injuries, any of these, if you are able to create a functional tech which can completely solve the problem, I think the world will look completely different. And I really wish and I hope that this comes to reality really soon. Wish you the very, very best for it and your team. Any last words to my listeners?
We hope that we will make progress, and we hope that one of our patients will do small steps because these steps will be very small for our company, but it will be a giant leap to humanity. And you're invited to follow our work in our website and our LinkedIn or Facebook accounts. And we really hope that we will be able to regenerate the future of medicine. And thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Asaf. It was a pleasure talking to you. Yes, I think our healthcare industry at this point in time is so reactive. We're getting into a point where we will kind of figure out ways before things happen. So I'm excited for that future, and when we have the like a tool to kind of print organs, there'll be millions who won't have to wait to be on a waiting list and to die. So it's a pleasure now to be talking to you and to my listeners. If you like what you see in here, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Asaf. Really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.